We're live. Hello, everyone that is watching. I don't know if anyone's watching yet. Hello, and thank you so much for being here for our live discussion of White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. Hold up your books. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you return yours to the bookstore?
I just unhauled it.
Oh my god,
You moved so fast.
that was so okay.
My
But to be fair, the last live show or 2 live shows ago that I was on with somebody, we were discussing a book, and literally as soon as the show ended, she immediately put it on her Depop or something, and she was like, "I don't want this."
Wow. I mean, Manda just did that with Payback's a Witch too.
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
You guys are reckless.
Yeah, honestly, it's so disrespectful. What if Tiffany was watching?
Well,
Exactly.
I have your
Sorry,
other
Tiff.
Hopefully you're not watching.
Well, there's like 2 or 3 people watching, I bet. None of
It's
them.
definitely Tiffany. It's Tiffany and her agent, and they're like, no.
Oh, no.
Imagine.
They're so mad.
Well, let's start with our ratings for the book, shall we? Now I'm curious. Okay, so I gave the book 4 stars, and it's a solid 4-star. What about you, Casey?
I'm gonna put my homework away first of all. I gave it a 5 on Goodreads, like right after I finished it, but like my ratings on Goodreads are so arbitrary, so it's more like a 4 in my heart, you know? What about you, Miss Steph?
Oh.
Yep, let's go in a circle. Let's do it.
Okay. I think I'm giving it 3 stars, but if anything, it would be rounded up from a 2.5.
I'm in the same wheelhouse. I didn't really like it that much, so I'm around like 2.5-ish, I think. It's been a while since I finished my Goodreads, but yeah.
I love that we invited you guys to just shit on this book.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, we picked the worst
This
book.
sucks.
Oh no, it's perfect. It's an even split.
That's true.
So it'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna ask you what your favorite thing about the book was, but now I'm gonna ask you what your favorite and your least favorite thing about the book was. Mine was definitely, my favorite was the anxiety rep, because I have anxiety and I really resonated with the main character, which I don't remember the name anymore.
It was like
Marigold. Marigold.
Sure. And my least favorite, I feel like there were a lot of, well, I guess it was inevitable, but there were a lot of horror movie tropes in it that were just like sometimes felt a bit forced. So yeah, that was my least favorite thing. What about you, Casey?
So I have to say my favorite thing would definitely be the mental health rep also. Because I feel like it covered a lot of different mental health reps or like components of having mental illness. And it was really nice to see it in like such a variety of ways. And also not have it be pitched as a book about mental health. I really liked that. And my least favorite thing is probably, I think it might have been like the main character's like prose or the way she thought, because it just kind of seemed disjointed and like maybe too over-explanatory, and just the pacing was kind of not it for me.
Yeah.
Like it was, for most of my reading experience, it felt like a 3-star read until like the last 10% of the book, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I also felt like the ending was a bit like rushed and like sudden. Yeah, I also felt that. Also, Sarah, if you want to join, you can join. I'll send you the link. Like, if you're serious about it, I'll send you the link. Just tell me. What about you, Steph or Rachel? Either one. Go ahead. Favorite things. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Okay. I really liked Sammy. I thought he was a really good character. Sammy is the brother who basically all around, like, I feel like he was the best character out of everybody. He was interesting to follow. The fact that he had like a peanut allergy and that gets like utilized in the horror is a whole thing. He's also smart. The whole thing with the GoPro cameras, I'm just like, you're smart, my man. I like you. Who did I hate? Piper, absolutely. Even by the end when they were like, she's redeemable, I was like, but I don't like her. And the other thing I really did not like, as far as like story goes, was the way that John was used. We're going into spoilers, right? That's fine.
Sure. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really did not like the fact that they like basically made John to be like this
Burn alive.
large hulking. No, well, yes, but also the fact he was like, oh look, it's a misunderstood large hulking man who barely talks. And then when he could possibly like get saved with everyone else, he's just like, no, I'll go back into the fire for no reason. It just was like, what? Like it didn't feel like they were doing anything there. It's like you kind of almost did something, but then you just immediately sent him back into the fire to get killed. So could have done something with that plot line, I think. I don't know if that was like my least favorite thing, but that's definitely something that stood out to me. Is like I wish that it wasn't that way.
What about you, Steph?
My favorite thing was definitely the anxiety representation, and I really liked the little brother and some of the horror-y parts of it I actually really liked. And the thing is like I don't hate this book. It's more of like there were things that were happening within this plot that like there were too many plot lines, first off, that were never explored. And then secondly, my least favorite thing was that marijuana is used in here for two different purposes. And I think that what gets lost is that she was trying to talk about the criminalization of petty drug crimes, but then the main character the entire time is villainized for her use of weed or like wanting weed to help alleviate her anxiety. And her parents never just say like, instead of telling her that she's this horrible person because of her addiction to weed, maybe we should get her some help, or like maybe think about strains of marijuana that could help her alleviate her anxiety, instead of just continuously telling her that she's this awful person for wanting to smoke weed. It like was this huge deal with the main character that really, really bothered me. But then there was that like sub plot line of people going to jail for using marijuana, which is a very real thing and a very real problem. And I feel like it wasn't really balanced well with what was like trying to be said versus what came across to me as a reader.
Yeah, I think something that Tiffany D. Jackson, I don't know, maybe she struggled with it based on your experience, but it was definitely like the main character's relationship with drugs, because like she initially started out with weed in her old home, and then she started using harder drugs, and that's when she had the overdose. And Sammy found her.
I thought that plotline was she didn't use harder drugs. It was laced with something.
It was laced.
Oh, it was laced.
Yeah.
Was it fentanyl?
Something like that. She didn't know. I mean, I knew she was popping pills, which wasn't really my point. But like when she had her overdose, it was laced and she had no idea.
Yeah. Well, I do agree that on the fronts of there was something weird going on in this particular town where a lot of people would be found with weed, which is a real thing that we can look at in our real lives and say, like, that's definitely something I can see, like, you know, where she's going with this. But I also feel like that plot line just sort of like got very quickly wrapped up like, oh, but they changed it like this many years ago and now we don't have to worry about it. By the way, you're addicted to weed and we're just not going to address the fact that those are really related. I can appreciate when like an author doesn't like guide you all the way there, but they leave clues so you can be like, ooh, like I get it. But I do kind of feel like this one had some, I guess, footfalls. Like I didn't really feel like I was being brought along towards a theme or any particular message that she was trying to go for as far as the marijuana usage. I just kind of feel like it was a thing for Marigold to be like, I'm so flawed because I'm an unreliable narrator because I'm on weed. And it's like, okay, but I don't really believe that you're not seeing the things that you're seeing because you're smoking. Like I don't think that was the message I was trying go forward.
That the whole book, she only smoked weed once the time that she was living there, so that still doesn't.
And
really
I think the rest of the time she was just like going through withdrawal, and she was just like, "Wow, I really want weed," and they were like, "Ah, you're smoking again. You're crazy." And she was like, "I literally haven't smoked in like 5 weeks, but okay."
One of the plot lines I really didn't like was like how she started like growing marijuana in one of the neighbors' house. I was like, this is so reckless. Like you're just asking to get caught, especially with like Piper like hovering over her shoulder.
I thought
like,
it was so funny how Yusuf catches her growing weed, and he's like, "This is what you use my tools for. You betrayed my trust." I was like, okay. Okay.
Yeah. That part was a bit unrealistic, to be honest. Like, everyone would know.
Yeah.
Also, Sarah was saying the allergy thing was the scariest part, literally scariest thing in the entire book. Not to
I definitely
me.
found this scarier than like the actual reveal of it, because I was just like, that's the reveal? Because I always expect, like with the Tiffany D. Jackson book, it's never going to really be like a paranormal thing, which I guess you don't know because plenty of authors delve into like different genres sometimes. But I kind of was like, I don't think it's going to be paranormal or supernatural in any way. I think it's just going to be, you know, like all along it was this person. So like when they did the reveal, I was like, oh, okay. But it didn't have the same oomph as other Tiffany D. Jackson books that make me like literally rethink the entire book and my entire life and everything I've been doing with my life. Like Monday's Not Coming like destroyed everybody who read it for a reason, and that's not really anywhere near what we get with White Smoke in this case. So I was kind of disappointed with that. So in terms of like shock and impact and like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? The allergy thing was definitely more of like, yeah, okay, like what's gonna happen? But the rest of the stuff, I was kind of like, all right, I guess we'll just see how this goes. But I'm not, like, my mind is not blown.
It was actually completely different for me because my worst fear, and I've had this fear since I was like 10 years old, is having someone live in my house without me knowing. But I
oh my god, you told me about that.
Yeah, I can handle ghosts. That's like, it's creepy in and of itself, but it's like, you know, almost natural in a way. But like the idea of someone living in my house without my consent or without me knowing, like, has terrified me forever. So when that reveal happened, I was shaken to my core. Because then it was like, oh, like they were playing like the recordings of Sammy to Marigold to like it was just
entice her.
Yeah, to make it so much more manipulative. Like this was intentional, like a real human doing this to like harass this family, and it was really creepy. So I thought that was a good twist, and that might just be personal because that is like my deepest fear. But yeah, it didn't make me rethink anything as much as like Monday's Not Coming did, or even like the very ending of Allegedly. But it made me stop for a bit. It made me stay up later than I should have.
Have you seen Parasite?
No. Sarah said the same thing to me.
What?
Sarah asked me the same thing when we were talking about this.
Yeah. Thankfully, you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Because
we know spoilers. Have not seen it yet. Plan to, but
watch it, Rachel. It's really good. Casey, don't watch it. Stay away. Another thing that I was thinking right now is like one of the scariest parts to me was the alarms that kept going off on her phone. How would that happen?
Oh, that was creepy.
That was creepy. Well,
who was putting the alarms on her phone?
I'm assuming it was one of either the lady that was there or the guy, her son.
Probably
was there in the night.
Was it definitely not Piper?
Oh, well, I forget. Yeah, Piper, too.
I thought maybe it was because I feel like they were like, the Sugar and John have just been in the basement for 100 years, which is not an accurate amount of time. But, like, they did not, like, they just stayed in the basement area and, like, they traveled between houses. I don't feel like they had cell phones. So I feel like if they were like, go creep this person out by going on this magic device you don't know much about and set an alarm, they'd be like, no. Like,
well, Mary did see like a man standing in her room a couple times. Like she saw like that outline, and they did hear creaking and stuff. So I thought that when night came out, that's when the mom and the son came out too. And like also with all the
maybe,
dishes and
but
stuff.
like, yes, but I also just don't think they would know how like a smartphone works. Like,
Well, I mean,
that's,
the thing
I don't
happened
know if
like
that's a plot hole or
60
not.
years
but,
ago.
Yeah,
Like
we did not
they
have
lived.
smartphones 60 years ago.
No, but the thing is, I'm saying it didn't happen 60 years ago. Like this is much more recent.
This was like what, like 20 something years ago, I think.
Yeah,
right?
and like
In the
I
story.
mean, sure, there's a learning curve with like picking up smartphones, but I don't think it's like completely outrageous. I mean, do I think it did it fit? Probably not, but like I don't think it's like a plot hole.
I mean, okay, wait. I'm not saying that there's no way that they couldn't learn how to use a smartphone, but I'm also thinking if I didn't know how to use a smartphone and someone was like, why don't you go freak that person out by going on their smartphone and setting an alarm, I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like as a person, if I didn't know anything about technology of the modern day and someone was like, you can set an alarm on this little thing that looks like this and then it will freak them out and it'll say this, I'd be like, how? Like, what? And I don't feel like they would learn to do that. I feel like Piper would be the one doing that because Miss Sugar was like, freak her out and do this.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's a good point. But like, but I mean, maybe like if we talk to Tiffany, she would be like, Piper witness.
I'll send her the link.
Yeah.
Okay, Tiffany, I know you're watching. Just let us know what's the truth.
Like Piper obviously was aware of like how often Marigold used her phone, so that's something she could communicate to the mother, and that's where the plan could come up. So I don't think it's like that outrageous.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think like Piper was like, ooh, I have a good idea, I'll do it myself. I definitely think it was like a plan between at least Miss Sugar and Piper. I don't know how involved John was, because he seemed like basically like the innocent in the situation. Piper to a degree as well, because she was just lonely. But John kind of just like stood there and like he didn't do anything bad. Like he didn't try to like hurt anyone or intimidate anyone on purpose. So the whole time it's really Miss Sugar just being like, get out of my house. So she would be the one to say like, I want these people to leave. I want to do this thing. Does anybody have like the page number or like exactly what the messages said? Because I kind of forget, but I do remember it being kind of scary.
Or when,
especially also because like the audiobook, the narrator would just be like, beep, beep, beep. Like she would just like start yelling and I was like, hello. And then it was like, don't forget, you forgot, didn't you? Look under the bed. There's nothing there. And I was like, okay, all right.
It's like 195, 96, 97. No. First one is 195.
Okay. I mean, definitely like the first couple have to be her alarms that she sets herself. Because the one that's like, alarm, get up. She's just like, oh, I should have turned the alarm off last night. So she probably already has like a bunch of alarms already set. And then the ones that are like, pack your calculus textbook and like blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, I know that. And the ones that are like, where is Buddy? Did you remember to lock the door last night? Then it's like, all right. I don't think this was her. Why did they do this though? Was it just to freak her out though?
What?
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, like, do you think they just did it literally to like freak her out? Like, look over there. And, like,
yeah, I think it was probably just to make her uncomfortable. To just again make her feel like she's not at home. This isn't her house.
Well, right. Wasn't the whole thing that like they're trying to get her to leave? So the only way to do that was to make her feel like she was going crazy.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I would say my guess is that Piper has to have been the one to do it, especially because the last alarm is, did you check for bed bugs? And Piper would know that, and Miss Sugar would, unless she told her.
Mafalda, what were you going to say?
Anyway, yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was going to say that I wasn't scared of bed bugs. Like, I didn't even think about bed bugs before this book. But like, I was reading this book and I was itching my skin like,
yeah,
bed bugs. So that was a thing.
It was actually the worst timing too, because at my job, I found out from somebody randomly that like not that long ago, the branch that I work at had really bad bed bugs all over their chairs and stuff. And apparently, and like somebody was like, yeah, if you know, you can get rid of bed bugs, but they're never truly gone. And I was like,
You were like, Miss Tiffany was onto something.
Tiffany.
Oh yeah. I wonder if she had bed bugs, and that's why she wrote about it. Probably.
I know.
I mean, they definitely seem like really easy to freak out about because like there are so many, like they're so small, and literally if you just see like there's so many things in your life that are like very small dark objects, and you could just be like, oh my god, and it's not, but it's so easy to just like jump to conclusions with that.
Yeah. Like when she saw the coffee.
Yeah, and she was like, it's all over the couch and stuff, and they're like, there's no way it would be there, and she's like, no, but it is, like, for sure. I thought like certain things like that, like with the coffee and stuff, I was like, okay, like, yeah, that's scary. But I have to admit, every time she was like, fact, bed bugs do this, I was like, Dwight Schrute, why? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I didn't really love about like the narration was it was like, why are you doing this? You know?
Yeah.
Like, what is it supposed to prove to us as a reader? What is it supposed to do for us? Like, I wonder why Tiffany D. Jackson made that choice. Because, like, if anything, it just made me feel like this was a younger read.
Yeah.
Which is an inherently bad thing, but it, like, I didn't love it.
I think it lessened, like, the severity of the story because I was like, okay, like, yeah. I mean, because the other thing is, like, everybody here has been on WebMD and been like, I'm like, oh, my arm itches. And they're like, well, I have 15 things it could be, and you're going to be concerned about every single one of them. But I'm not familiar with anybody who, like, memorizes what WebMD says and then carries it with them for the rest of their life. And I know she was, like, really, really upset about it, but I was kind of like, you know, like, I see what you're doing, but it's overkill because you're doing it like every single chapter and just like naming stuff about it. So I definitely felt similarly with like how young it started to feel because of that, I think.
Yeah.
I guess you could tell by this book that Tiffany D. Jackson was trying a new genre, and like maybe in like one or two horror books that she writes, it's gonna be like super good, or maybe the next one is gonna be super good. But like the first one is always kind of like you never know. I guess
that's like exactly what I was thinking too, because I didn't really love the first like maybe 75% of the book, but then like the last quarter of the book I like started to really get into it. And even though I didn't love the reveal, that's a personal preference because I love haunted house stories, but I hate when an author makes it seem paranormal and then it has some logical explanation. That's just a personal thing that I have. But like I should have expected it because Tiffany normally does like plot twists that are logical in the end.
Yeah.
Like, they have some sort of explanation. But I guess I wasn't 100% sure because I knew she was trying a new genre. But I do feel like if she writes another horror book, I would absolutely read it. Like, this didn't make me feel like I would never read Tiffany D. Jackson again. It just, like Mafalda said, it read like somebody writing a new genre and like getting their footing.
I feel like if she did an adult horror book, it would be out of this world.
Yeah.
Because then she wouldn't be weighed down by like things that you would kind of expect in YA or like YA readers gravitate towards, and it would just be like pure horror or pure like uneasiness, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of what's interesting to me is like her other books are classified as YA thrillers, but they are very scary, and all of them usually tend to like involve cycles of abuse or it's related to it at least in some way. So like for instance in Allegedly, it's not literally like let's tell a story about a person being abused per se, but there is a character who is in and out of like I think she's in and out of like the foster home system, which tends to be like pretty abusive. Is that right?
It was more of like a jail system. like for juvenile detention.
Yeah, okay, yeah, juvenile, like, so there's certain things like that, which I think, like, because it's young, but it's sort of like how young people can be preyed upon, those are, like, usually things that I think work really well, because it is really scary to also think that, like, here's a young person who doesn't really have the means to defend themselves the way that an adult might be able to, and so that's kind of, like, I guess, like, the theme of a lot of her books with, like, Grown, Allegedly, Monday's Not Coming, a lot of them are things where you're like, there's a logical explanation, but I know that it's going to be something still, like, devastating in the end. And I was really looking for that. And I think, like, the whole reveal here, I was like, I don't feel like it matches my expectations of what I thought she was going to do with this. But at the same time, like, the premise of the book didn't lean towards her usual stuff. So definitely felt like it's going to be different. I don't know if I'm going to like it. And it just ended up kind of, like, falling a little flat for me. For me, I actually really did like the first part of the book, just because it was really easy to read and get through. And I was like, oh my god, Piper is like, oh, you're on my last name. I do not like you. I do not like Alec. The way Alec is just like, oh, my precious Piper, I'm taking her out to breakfast. Oh, everyone else is totally invited too since you asked. Where I'm like, all right, idiot. Like, don't know what anybody sees in Alec, but fine. But I guess, like, as the book kept going, I was waiting for, like, stuff to happen where, like, the other shoe would drop eventually at the end of the book, and I just don't really feel like too much of that happened, other than just saying, like, oh, there is a person named Meshuggah, and it's not just, like, a made-up, like, pretend best friend or something for Piper. So, yeah. Also, oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna ask that, like, one of the things I really like about Tiffany D. Jackson's books is, like, kind of how she connects with the main characters going through with, like, a larger systemic issue. And in this book, we kind of got that with Marigold moving into this neighborhood that is, like, actively, like, almost being gentrified by a larger corporation and, like, white powers. Like, how did you guys feel about that plot line? Do you think it was, like, fully fleshed out? Did it make sense to you guys? Because, like, to me, it didn't seem like it had as much power as, like, her other plot lines in her other books have had.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring that up, so yeah, definitely what I was thinking of too. I mean, I thought it was overall kind of silly because the initial idea that was like, okay, here's a neighborhood, it's haunted, but not really, it's just like, it's being gentrified, and then they just moved a family in, and they're going to slowly do whatever they want with it, was like initially like, okay, this could be interesting, but the way that it was like, hey, every single person on the board is all connected with this thing, and then they're gonna have everyone burn the houses down.
But only Marigold's the only one who can figure this out. No one else is.
Like, first of all, like, nobody would ever, like, this is just stupid. Like, nobody would do this where they were like, I'm gonna make them burn it down themselves and they'll be responsible. I was like, no. The idea that they did, like, smoke people out, I was like, okay, that's interesting that that's, like, something being talked about. But I also did think it was, like, weird that the mob mentality just kicked in very quickly, where, like, someone was like, we'll smoke them out, and everybody was like, yeah, let's burn the whole neighborhood down. And I was like, no, like, whoa, this is an overreaction. So as far as that goes, I don't know, I guess, like, that whole way that they handled it with the fire and everything definitely, like, dampened the whole message going across, because it just seemed, like, very silly.
I didn't even remember that part, so I guess that tells you I didn't think it was fleshed out at all. Now that I think of it, but yeah. Also, it reminded me of the new Alyssa Cole book, because I read it, like, the previous week before reading White Smoke, so I was like, whoa, these two books are, like, hand in hand.
I thought you meant her newest romance, which I'm reading right now, and I was like, really?
No, When No One's Watching.
Yeah.
That one. It really reminded me of that one, because I read them, like, in a span of 2 weeks or something. So yeah. But I didn't even remember that part from this book. So
yeah, I think it just kind of seemed a little bit not far-fetched, but, like, a little bit convoluted with how the people who didn't sell the people their house, but, like, who facilitated Marigold's family living there, knew that Miss Sugar and her son were living in the basement, and they wanted that to happen, but they were also like, it just like, it was like, wait, can you sit down and explain this to me?
No, it is far fetched. Like that. No, like it's just not.
Yeah,
it's silly. It's silly.
yeah. But another thing that I think about this book is I one of my favorite, well, not my favorite things, but I really like the love interests that she writes, because I think they're like really genuine and they come across kind of cute, and I'm like rooting for them, but I'm like, this isn't the point of the story. So I was curious, like, what did you guys think about Yosef?
He's cute.
Yeah.
I really liked. I liked that he was just like so into gardening, and he was like, "You use my gardening for weed." No, I was like, all right. But I don't know. I mean, like, he seemed like a genuinely good person, so I liked that he was like a good match for her. Although I do feel like she had a lot of her own like inner turmoil to deal with, so it wasn't really like the best time for her to approach romance per se. But he did seem to be like a good person for her to lean on, and I was like at times questioning. I was like, "Are you in on it? Like, are you a part of like what's going on?" But in the end, like, I liked that he was at least like a place for her to go outside of like her family and like everything that was going on at home and in the home and under the home, to be like, I'm going over there to figure this out and go through like the footage and stuff and sort things out. So yeah,
Kind of seemed like a cupcake to me. I kind of wanted more for him than Marigold, because she, like, I don't know, she just didn't seem like, I liked her, but she didn't seem
like she liked him very much.
I feel like she liked the idea of him liking her.
Yeah.
That was it.
But she also initially was like, no, I can't do this again. Like, boys are in trouble. I was like, okay. I guess.
Give me that weed.
There was another friend, right?
Yeah. I forgot her name, but there was the
Erica.
friend.
Oh.
Erica?
Yeah, I literally just opened a page where she's going to a party, and I don't remember this part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like what I meant earlier when I said that, like, first off, there were too many plot lines, and you can't remember half of them. So, like, she was trying to touch on gentrification. She was trying to touch on the criminalization of petty drug crimes. She was trying to also, like, add in racism, and within that gentrification aspect, like, the racism that comes along with that. And then on the side, there's like this romance happening, and then there's this creepy stuff happening, and then there's these side characters that aren't that well fleshed out. And so, like, I felt when the creepy stuff was happening in the last 25%, I was really engaged because it was super focused on that stuff. And in the other part of the book, it was like a lot of different things being thrown at you, but nothing ever came to like a head. There was no like really digging deep into those things, where I feel like for other books, it's really focused on one issue and you dig pretty deeply into it.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I felt like she tried to tackle too much, and the book is already really short. And so it just like didn't, those are the reasons it didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you mentioned the Alyssa Cole book, I actually thought of the same thing. But even with the Alyssa Cole book, she's solely focusing on gentrification and racism. Yeah.
And I think another thing that, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No.
Okay. One of the things that like Tiffany D. Jackson's like kind of known for is like her cliffhangers that she leaves you on. But the cliffhanger that she left us on in this book, to me, kind of felt like a cop out. So I
forgot what the cliffhanger was. What was it?
Well, it was kind of like the whole city was burning down, and Marigold was like, "I'm gonna save the day."
Oh yes,
that was it.
She was just like, "I can make them stop." Yeah, and then it was just like over.
And John had just like walked into the fire, and now she was at Yosef's house, and she was like, "Well, Piper and I are besties now, and I'm gonna take on this riot." Yeah, like this was my favorite part of the story. Can we keep going? So yeah, I think this would like, even though I see its flaws, but I still liked it. I do think this is probably her weakest book.
But it makes sense. I mean, like, if you're absolutely scared of somebody living in your house and that's like the plot twist, that would freak me out too.
I hate it. I hated it.
Like,
Okay, I think if you do like reread the book knowing what the twist is, then you'll see like more of like the gut drop moments, I guess. Like for me, I was just like, I don't believe in stuff like this. So then being like, oh my god, your house is haunted, I was like, this doesn't do a thing for me, so I don't care. So every time they were like, girl, the hag's chilling in your house, like in your living room right now, I was like, whatever. But like once you know what the twist is and you go back, you're like, they're kind of right though. Like she is literally like right there. So I feel like this is, I do think that like a lot of Tiffany D. Jackson books are good because you can reread them and get a whole different meaning.
Yeah.
Around. So I wonder like how many things there are that like I, as a person who doesn't like think about those things at all, like would just gloss over and be like, okay, like these are just kids like, you know, talking about the rumors of the town, but how much of it is something that like lends itself to the actual truth of the story.
Wait, sorry, side note. So like nothing paranormal scares you?
I'm a science major. Like I don't.
Oh my god, I believe in science too.
Rachel, did you just call Steph a flat earther?
I did not, but do you believe in science? So
I believe in science.
Wow. I feel like you could be a scientist and still get creeped out by paranormal things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if I saw something with my own eyes, I'd be like, okay. But I guess just like I'm very good at like explaining away things that are creepy by just being like, yeah, but science says you can't do that. And so like, you know how some people like rely on God and they'll say like, you know, God wouldn't let X happen. I'm like, science wouldn't let X happen. So to me, I just think of it as like, I kind of know how the world works. So when something weird happens, I'll pay attention. But there's probably a logical explanation for it. I'm very much a cynic in that way. That's why all my ratings are like 2 stars lately. I'm just like 2 stars. Like, there's magic in it? I don't believe it.
Rachel's like, science is my god.
Rachel reads fantasy to disprove magic.
Honestly, it makes so much sense why you don't even really like much horror or fantasy books. Like you don't connect with them.
I guess
science is your god.
But that's why Tiffany D. Jackson always works for me because bringing it back around, every time that she does like a horror-ish like thriller story, it's always something that's real-ish. So I'm like that is really bad. Like everything that has to do with like grown, where it's like you're literally being groomed in a relationship and now you're stuck. How are you gonna get out? Then it's like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like that's why domestic thrillers or like thrillers like that where it's like it's realistic to a degree, that's what gets me like, oh my god. And every time they're like, it's a ghost, I'm like, all right, like, okay, a ghost, ectoplasm, okay, like.
I like kind of want a ghost to like challenge you right now.
I would fight that ghost so fast.
Where's Miss Sugar when you need her?
Honestly, she would fuck you up, Rachel.
Would she, or would I just not believe whatever she's doing?
She would light your ass on fire.
She would she would probably bully you for not having an iPhone. She wouldn't know how to set alarms.
I welcome her to it, but the thing that would scare me would be the whole like iPhone thing where I'd be like, stop.
Oh, that would be the thing that scared you, not the fact that she would find your allergy and try to kill your ass.
Okay, I mean that would suck. I am allergic to a lot, but I mean, that's where like she crosses the line in the book. Okay,
that's where she goes too far.
She's gone too far. Okay, the idea of like I'm gonna take your stuff, I'm already annoyed. Okay, if someone was just like taking my things, I'd be like, listen, I know I'm absent-minded. I don't like this. Like I need to find my things. But when it's like I'm going to kill you with your allergy, it's like.
I mean, she's using your weakness against you. Can you blame her?
Yeah, and she's too effective. Like, stop it.
That's how you take down an opponent, though.
Okay, also, if she left a note that was like, hey, I'm living in your house, can you leave? I'd be more like, all right, who did this? Rather than just like a straight up murder attempt on my life. And also, like, Sam was like a child. He was like, what, 12 or something like that? Like, he was really young. If anybody, go after Alec, please. Like, the world has enough Alex in it.
Yeah.
But, like, he would also be the one to enact change. of anybody here, if it was just like Sammy being like, "Oh my god, I got an allergy," and like Piper did it, they'd be like, "Well, Piper is an angel, therefore."
Yeah, they're like, well,
nothing's
Piper
going to change.
just had a really rough year, you know? Like, let her be.
I was always like, oh, Piper has had it really hard. You know, her hair is so blonde and her eyes are so blue that, like,
Yeah.
people make fun of her because she's so perfect. And I think, like, sometimes people think that, like, she has angel wings sprouting from her back. So, like, they just really bully her all the time. Like, you know, it's really hard for her and you should consider her feelings and not your own, you drug addict. The whole conversation, this entire book.
Yeah, absolute drug addict. You're doing the nasty drugs.
Yeah.
It's like
the devil's lettuce.
She was like, she literally like smoked like once.
And it made her feel good. Like,
yeah, I was like, can we have a discussion about how weed actually helps alleviate anxiety? So like, this is not computing in my pea brain right now.
yeah. But like, I guess from like a parent's perspective, like I guess I get why they'd be apprehensive, but it wasn't as nuanced as it could have been.
Yeah.
Because it was purely like restricted by how people perceive you smoking weed. It wasn't like, didn't include the benefits of it. So I was just really happy that the dog was okay in the end. That's
true. Yeah.
Didn't the dog like eat her hand or something?
One
sugar, like her finger or something.
Yeah. I texted Lisa when I started the book because she had just finished it, and I was like, Lisa, is the dog okay? Tell me right now. And she's like, okay, he does get hurt, but he's okay in the end. Thank you. I was like, I will put this book down right now if this dog gets hurt.
You will DNF your own book club book.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Sorry, guys.
I feel like T.J. Jackson wouldn't do that though.
Do you know her?
I follow her on Instagram. I basically know her.
I'm just curious.
Look, science tells me I don't think this dog was going to be hard. He was fine.
The science god is saying right now.
I speak to him every night, actually, before I go to bed.
You pray?
Dear science, I was so good today. Please tell Santa I was great this year.
I feel like science wouldn't be a man.
I would agree.
Okay.
I think science would be very gender neutral. It's just an idea. Dear science, hey, thanks. Thanks for everything.
Thanks.
Not afraid to ghost anymore. Thanks. Yeah. Also, before we get away from the whole book, does anybody remember? I kind of forget what happened with Erica that made use of say like it was okay that she smoked weed, but it's not okay that Marigold smoked weed because I don't remember.
I think it was just like something stupid, like everything she's been through. And her family has been through.
Yeah, I remember she had been through something, but I don't remember what it
like
was.
Her whole family was in prison for like petty drug crime.
Was that like? Oh, also wasn't it like his father had been found with like some small amount of weed that was planted on him or something? So he was also like really against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remembered it was something related to that. I also separate topic. I also was waiting for the whole thing with the like preacher guy on TV to be something more because they kind of just use it as a connection to be like, oh, they're related.
Yeah.
But what's his deal? Like I believe in science, but I love religious themes in books where it's always like some like weird person with a religion enforces an indoctrination of a bunch of people and exploring that. I think that's really interesting.
I can't wait for you to read your collection.
Oh boy.
Rachel and I are gonna buddy read that.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, Rachel, I don't know if you said you wanted to buddy read with me. I just assumed it was happening.
I already wrote it in the group chat, but yeah.
Okay, I haven't checked it today. I've been doing so much stupid work, so good. I'm glad. Well, hopefully next month we have a better book.
I mean, you guys really liked it, so it was good.
Yeah, but it had flaws. We need an objectively good book now. So
yeah, I guess that concludes our live discussion. Anyone else have anything to say?
I Any more complaints? Anybody?
Yeah.
Or if you loved it, let us know.
Any more positives?
So I guess that's settled. No one else has anything. Thank you so much.
We're reading How Moon Fuentes fell in love with the
You're
universe.
skipping ahead. I was gonna say thank you, Rachel and Steph, for being here.
No, we're trying to get
Hey, everyone who's watching.
Well, that's like your closing. We're trying to plug next month before they leave.
Yeah, okay. Next month we're gonna be reading. Show us the book because I don't have it. How Moon Fuentes Fell in Love with the Universe. A beautiful cover. And hopefully it's better. It sounds like a YA, like cutesy contemporary, so
yeah, but it's much
probably a fun book, like not the best book ever, but
yeah, but we just need fun.
Yeah, we need fun right now. We'll see next year.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you, Rachel and Steph, for being here. Thank you to everyone who's watching and who has made an appearance. Thank you, Sarah, if you're still watching. I don't know. And yeah, thank you. Bye.